What's up everyone? This is the Timetosser and I'm Dave Mack and I'm going to walk you through everything the Timetosser can do in this multi-part video series. In this first video we're going to walk through the hardware, what the Timetosser can do and basic functionality. So first of all, what is the Timetosser? The Timetosser is an effects unit and it records live audio into a buffer and you can then toss that audio around. You're tossing with time, basically. And the way that works is that it records a buffer and it basically slices that buffer up in specific segments that you can choose with these three buttons. And I'll get into those a little bit later, of course. The cool thing is that you can completely restructure a beat live. In essence, you are working your way backwards into a buffer and re-groove it. There's also a couple of interesting effects like reverse, muting, and also specific patterns that you can use. First of all, we are going to have a look at the hardware. We have our clickety-clacky keys. We have some ins and outputs. And let's have a look at those. So first of all, we have USB cable input, which provides power to the Timetosser. You can either connect a standard USB adapter to use it in standalone mode, or you can connect it to a computer and it will work in plug-in mode. So Timetosser has a dedicated VST plugin, so you can actually toss time around in a DAW. It's pretty neat. We have audio input, stereo, and audio output, stereo. You can connect the source like the Digitect into the audio in and toss the groove around and then have the audio come out of the audio out into a mixer. We have MIDI in and sync in. Basically, this is a combined port for MIDI jack type B and also an analog clock input. So you can send a CV clock or CV gate to it to clock and sync the Timetosser. We also have a MIDI out, which sends MIDI clock and also node information. The MIDI in also takes node information, which is pretty cool. So you can actually use MIDI controllers or send MIDI through USB as well and sequence or change stuff on the Timetosser in real time. The cool thing about the USB and the MIDI ports is that if you connect it through USB to computer, these ports basically become USB to MIDI and MIDI to USB converters. So that's actually quite neat. So let's turn this upside down and let's start connecting some stuff. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use this in standalone mode. So I'm connecting to the inputs my Digitect, like so, and to the outputs my mixer. Here next to the USB port, there's a on and off switch. Press that and we are met with a nice range of colors and blinking lights. So let's go over the buttons that we have here. The top row are your step keys. Basically with these you determine where in the buffer you are going to have the slice repeated, or you can choose to have the buffer play from that slice onward, basically. And I'll explain a little bit more in detail and also give you audio examples, of course, of how this actually works. We have a mode button where we can change various modes that the Timetosser can function into and some additional settings. We have a clock or a tempo meter. We can also sync, of course, to an external device, but we can also tap tempo. We have our step length keys. These determine how long each of these steps is, like a quarter note, an eighth note, or a 16th note. We also have a shift function here. As you can see, the T, we can set these to triplets as well. We have a reverse button, we have a mute button, and that's basically it. Below these are also multiple functions actually hidden, which I'll go over in later videos as well. For now, I'm going to show you the basic functionality of the Timetosser to give you an idea how it actually works. So in the Digitect, I have a aim and break. And the reason I'm using an aim and break is because it's going to be very obvious what the Timetosser is doing to whatever is going through it. And everybody knows the aim and break, so it will be quite familiar to you as well. can see that it's currently synced. So when I press any of these step buttons, and I have it set to quarter note, it holds that slice basically, and it repeats it indefinitely until I choose to press something new. You can see that you can basically hold a step and it will loop that little slice based on the step length buttons. This step is step 0. This is always going to be my home. This means when I press this, the groove that is going through the Timetosser will be playing in real time. When I press in quarter note mode, the next step, the time will have shifted a quarter note backwards in time. We have a buffer recorded and we skip through it backwards by pressing these step buttons. And I can show you this by basically grabbing a snare drum, for instance, and follow it through the buffer. So currently I have it set to a quarter note, and I'm going to try and catch a snare drum. So basically what I'm doing is I'm following the snare going through the buffer backwards in time, right? And as soon as I press the 0, we're back at real-time playback. Now I can do the same with an 8th note, and this will hold a step within the buffer or a slice within the buffer by an 8th note. So and a 16th note. With an 8th note, I can also follow that snare and basically hold it there throughout the buffer. Of course, we can also do this simply by, like so. So you can see that you can really start playing and restructuring this little loop. That's basically what the Timetosser does. We have a couple of cool effects, like the reverse button. And we can just press it like so, or loop a little slice like so. And go back to live playback. We also have mute. Also quite fun to play around with. And we have an extra hidden effect by using shift. And that is tape stop, which I'll cover a little bit later as well. Another good thing to know is that we have 8 steps, obviously. But by pressing shift, we get another 8 steps. So we get 16 steps in total. So there's one more thing. I'm gonna disconnect the MIDI right now. And I'm gonna play this aim and break. You can see that the tempo button has changed color. I can tap this in time to have the Timetosser do the work for me. After 3 taps, it will have determined the tempo. And it's actually pretty accurate. But these are the basic functions of the Timetosser, and in the next videos we are going to dive a little bit deeper.